Hello, my friend. This time, our story is about Galileo Galilei, a brave scientist who looked at the stars and changed how we understand the universe. As you listen, I invite you to relax and imagine each part of his life. This story is told in simple English, made for learners like you who love great stories. Let's begin the journey of Galileo Galilei. Chapter 1. Childhood and Early Dreams. Galileo Galilei was born in the city of Pisa in Italy. The date was February 15, 1564. His family was not rich, but they were proud and educated. His father, Vincenzo Galilei, was a musician and also studied science. His mother, Giulia, took care of the home and children. Galileo was the oldest of 6 children. From a young age, he showed great curiosity. He liked to build things with his hands. He also enjoyed watching the sky at night. His father often played music at home. Galileo listened carefully and asked many questions about sounds and vibrations. One day, when Galileo was about 10 years old, he climbed a small hill near his home. He sat and looked up at the stars. The night was quiet. The stars looked small, like dots of light. Galileo wondered what they were. He asked, "Are they candles in the sky or something else?" As a child, he also liked to draw and read. He read books about nature, light, and color. He did not always follow the rules at school, but he was always thinking. His eyes were always watching. He liked to test ideas for himself. When he was a teenager, his father wanted him to become a doctor. That was a good job at the time. But Galileo had other dreams. He wanted to understand how the world worked. He was not interested in medicine. He was interested in truth. He did not know it yet, but he would grow up to change science forever. He would ask questions no one dared to ask, and he would search for answers in the stars, the sky, and the earth. Chapter 2. A Curious Mind at School. When Galileo Galilei was 17 years old, he went to the University of Pisa. His father sent him there to study medicine. At that time, doctors were respected people. They helped the sick and made good money. But Galileo was not interested in the human body. He was interested in numbers, shapes, and movement. At the university, he started to study math in secret. He also studied physics, which was called natural philosophy then. One day, he saw a hanging lamp in the cathedral. It moved slowly back and forth. Galileo timed its movement using his heartbeat. He noticed that the lamp always took the same time to swing, even when the swings were smaller. He was excited. This simple moment made him ask more questions about motion. He began to test ideas in his room. He dropped objects from different heights. He rolled balls down ramps. He wrote down how fast they moved. This was the beginning of his love for experiments. Galileo's father was not happy when he heard about this. He wanted his son to become a doctor. But Galileo spoke with a math teacher at the university. The teacher saw Galileo's talent and supported him. Finally, his father agreed. Galileo left medicine and began to study mathematics full-time. He learned about the great thinkers from the past, like Aristotle and Archimedes. But Galileo did not accept ideas just because they were old. He wanted to test them. He wanted to see for himself. He believed truth must be seen, touched, and proven. His time at the university was short. He had to leave before finishing his degree because of money problems. But that did not stop him. He continued to study and do experiments on his own. He gave lessons to rich students to earn money. Galileo had no degree, but he had something more powerful. A mind that never stopped asking. A mind that was not afraid to doubt old answers. His journey was just beginning. Chapter 3. The Student Who Asked Too Many Questions. Galileo Galilei was not an ordinary student. He was always asking questions, questions that made people uncomfortable. He asked why things fall. He asked how objects move. He wanted to know how the world really worked, not just what people said in books. Many people at the time believed what Aristotle said. Aristotle was a famous Greek thinker. He said that heavy things fall faster than light things. Everyone believed this for over 1,000 years. But Galileo was not sure it was true. He decided to test it. One day, Galileo climbed to the top of a tall tower in Pisa. Some say it was the Leaning Tower of Pisa. He took two balls, one heavy and one light. He dropped them at the same time. Both balls hit the ground together. People were shocked. This simple test showed that Aristotle was wrong. Galileo loved to prove ideas by using experiments. He did not want to just talk. He wanted to show. He rolled balls down wooden ramps. He watched them move. He timed them carefully. He found that all objects fall at the same rate, no matter their weight. This was a big step forward in science. At the same time, Galileo started to teach. He gave lectures at small schools. He also wrote letters to famous people in Italy. In one letter, he shared his new ideas about motion. Some people liked his thinking. Others did not. Many older teachers became angry with him. They said, "This young man asks too many questions." But Galileo did not stop. In 1589, he got a job at the University of Pisa. He became a teacher of mathematics. He taught students to think for themselves. He showed them how to look at nature with open eyes. Later, in 1592, Galileo moved to the University of Padua. He worked there for 18 years. These years were full of thinking, teaching, and discovering. He made new tools for measuring. He studied how objects moved through air and water. His classroom was always full. Students came from many places to learn from him. Galileo also worked on geometry, astronomy, and mechanics. He kept asking questions and testing answers. People began to respect him more. Still, some thought he was dangerous. They said he made trouble by going against old knowledge. But Galileo was not trying to make trouble. He was trying to find the truth. And for him, the truth had to be seen with the eyes, not just believed in the mind. Chapter 4. Discoveries that shook the world. At the University of Padua, Galileo Galilei had the freedom to study what he loved. He had time to think, test, and teach. His mind was full of ideas. Every day he watched the sky. He looked at the world with questions in his heart. One of his biggest interests was motion. He wanted to know how things move and why they stop. He studied speed, force, and gravity. He wrote many notes and made many small machines. He built ramps, weights, and pulleys. These tools helped him test ideas in simple ways. In 1604, a bright new star appeared in the sky. Many people thought it was a sign from God, but Galileo used this event to study the heavens. He said, "If the sky can change, then maybe the heavens are not perfect." This idea was shocking at the time. The same year, he gave public talks about falling objects. He said that the speed of a falling object increases over time. He also said that air can slow things down. These ideas were different from the old ones. Many people laughed at him. Others were angry. But a few began to listen. In his classroom, Galileo became more popular. Students loved his style. He showed experiments during class. He let students try them too. He said, "We must see to believe." This was a new way of learning. It made science feel alive. In 1609, Galileo heard about a new invention from the Netherlands. It was a tool made of glass lenses. It could make far things look near. It was called a telescope. Galileo was excited. He did not see the tool, but he read a short note about it. Then he made his own. His first telescope was simple, but soon he made better ones. He changed the shape of the lenses. He made them clearer and longer. With each new version, he could see more in the night sky. Then came the moment that changed his life forever. Galileo turned his telescope to the moon. He was surprised. The moon was not smooth. It had mountains and holes. It looked like Earth. He said, "The moon is not perfect." This was the first shock. Next, he looked at the planet Jupiter. He saw small stars near it. But after watching for several nights, he saw those stars moved. They went around Jupiter. These were moons. Nobody had seen this before. He wrote down everything. In 1610, he published a short book called The Starry Messenger. It shared what he saw in the sky. People were amazed. Some were scared. Others were angry. But everyone was talking about Galileo Galilei. This was the start of a big change in how people saw the universe. Until then, most people believed that everything went around Earth. But Galileo's telescope showed that moons could go around a planet. That meant Earth might not be at the center after all. Galileo's discoveries shook the world, but they also brought him closer to trouble. Some people wanted to stop him, but he had already opened a new door, and there was no turning back. Chapter 5. The Telescope and the Moons of Jupiter. Galileo Galilei stood under the night sky with his telescope in hand. It was the year 1610. He had just finished building his strongest telescope yet. It could make things appear 20 times closer. This was a great tool for a man who wanted to understand the stars. He pointed the telescope at the planet Jupiter. To his surprise, he saw 3 small lights near the planet. The next night, he looked again. The lights had moved. After more nights of watching, he saw a 4th light. These lights were not stars. They were moons moving around Jupiter. This was a big shock to the world. Until then, people believed that all heavenly bodies moved around Earth. But Galileo had seen something different. He said, "Not everything in the heavens goes around the Earth." His discovery was clear and real. It could not be denied. Galileo named the 4 moons the Medicean stars to honor the Medici family. They were powerful leaders in Italy. He hoped they would protect and support him. The Medici were happy with the gift. They helped Galileo get a new job in Florence. Now he was a court mathematician and philosopher. In Florence, Galileo continued his work. He showed many people what he saw through his telescope. He looked at the Milky Way and saw it was made of many stars. He looked at the planet Venus. He saw that it had phases, like the moon. This meant that Venus went around the sun, not the Earth. His book, The Starry Messenger, became famous across Europe. Scientists, kings, and church leaders all read it. Some were amazed. Others were angry. The Catholic Church taught that Earth was the center of the universe. Galileo's work gave support to a different idea. That idea came from a man named Nicholas Copernicus. Copernicus had said that the sun was at the center. Galileo's findings gave new power to this idea, but not everyone was ready to accept it. Many people thought it was dangerous. Galileo kept teaching and writing. He believed that people must trust their eyes. He said, "Look through the telescope. See for yourself." He wanted others to think freely, but many powerful men did not like that. They said, "The heavens cannot change. The Bible says so." Still, Galileo's telescope opened a new window to the universe. He did not make the telescope first, but he used it in a new way. He used it to ask big questions. He used it to find answers that others had never seen. The moons of Jupiter changed how people looked at space. They showed that not all things go around Earth. They showed that the universe was more complex than people thought. Galileo was proud of his work, but deep inside he knew that hard times were coming. The more truth he showed, the more trouble he would face. Chapter 6. Trouble with the Church. After Galileo Galilei published The Starry Messenger, his fame grew quickly. Many people praised him. Others feared him. Some called him a genius. Others called him dangerous. But one thing was clear. Galileo was changing how people saw the universe. At that time, the Catholic Church had great power in Italy and across Europe. The Church taught that Earth was the center of everything. This idea came from an old Greek thinker named Ptolemy. The Church believed that this idea matched what the Bible said. But Galileo's discoveries told a different story. He supported the model from Copernicus, which said that the sun was at the center. He saw this with his own eyes through the telescope. He believed science and faith could live together. But the Church did not agree. In 1616, Church leaders warned Galileo. They told him not to say that the Earth moves. They said he could study the idea, but he must not teach it as truth. Galileo said he would obey. For some time he stayed quiet, but inside he felt troubled. He believed people deserved to know what he had seen. Years passed. In 1623, a new pope was chosen. His name was Pope Urban VIII. He was more friendly to science. Galileo thought this was a good sign. He spoke with the Pope and received permission to write a new book. Galileo agreed to present both sides of the argument. In 1632, he published his book called Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems. In the book, 3 men talk about the universe. One man supports the old idea. Another supports the sun-centered idea. The third asks questions. The book was written in a lively, fun way. Many people loved it. But soon, trouble began. Some thought that Galileo made fun of the Pope in his book. The Pope became angry. Church leaders said Galileo broke his promise. They said he had taught that Earth moves, even though he said he would not. In 1633, Galileo was called to Rome. He had to stand before the church court, called the Inquisition. He was 70 years old. He was weak and tired. But he had no choice. He had to defend himself. The trial was hard. Church leaders asked him many questions. They showed him the warning from 1616. They said he had gone too far. Galileo tried to explain that he only showed both ideas, but they did not believe him. In the end, Galileo was found guilty. He was forced to say that he was wrong. He had to say that Earth does not move. Many people believe that he whispered, "And yet it moves," after the trial. But we cannot be sure. Galileo was not put in jail, but he was placed under house arrest. He could not leave his home. He could not teach. He could not write freely. It was a heavy punishment for a man who loved to speak, write, and share ideas. Still, Galileo's spirit stayed strong. He had faced the most powerful force of his time. He had paid a price for his truth, but his ideas were already moving across Europe. The truth he saw through his telescope could not be hidden. Chapter 7. House arrest, but not silenced. Galileo Galilei was now an old man. After his trial in 1633, the church told him he could not leave his house. He was placed under house arrest for the rest of his life. He had to stay in his home near Florence. There were no more lectures, no more visits to cities, no more trips to look at the stars. But Galileo's mind was still full of ideas. He could not speak in public, but he could still write. He began working on a new book. This book was not about the sky. It was about motion, how things move and fall. It was a subject he had loved since he was young. He started writing a new work called Two New Sciences. This book explained many of his ideas about speed, strength, and movement. He used simple examples. He described balls rolling down slopes. He wrote about how objects fall. He explained how force changes motion. Galileo worked in secret. He shared pages with trusted friends. They helped him send the book outside Italy. In 1638, Two New Sciences was published in the Netherlands. It was printed far from the church's control. The book quickly reached scientists across Europe. By this time, Galileo's health was getting worse. His eyesight began to fail. He became blind in both eyes. Still, he did not stop working. He said, "My mind still sees." He remembered the skies he had seen. He still thought deeply. He still asked questions. Galileo was not allowed to teach in schools, but some young students came to his home. One of them was Vincenzo Viviani. He stayed with Galileo and helped him. He read and wrote for him. He listened to Galileo's words and helped save them. Even in silence, Galileo's ideas grew louder. Scientists in other countries read his books. They repeated his experiments. They used his methods. His work began to shape the way science was done. Galileo believed that nature could be studied like a book. He said, "Mathematics is the language of the universe." He meant that people could understand the world using numbers, shapes, and clear thinking. This idea helped science become more exact and powerful. In January 1642, Galileo Galilei passed away. He was 77 years old. He died in the same house where he had been held for many years. He was surrounded by a few students and friends. Though his body stayed in one place, his thoughts had traveled far. He did not live to see the church accept his ideas. That would take hundreds of years, but he had planted the seed, and the world had begun to change. Galileo's final years were quiet, but not empty. He showed that even in silence, a brave mind can speak. His house arrest could not stop the truth, and it could not stop the voice of a man who had looked through a telescope and seen the future. Chapter 8. Legacy, the father of modern science. Galileo Galilei died in 1642, but his ideas did not die with him. His work started a new way of thinking. Today, many people call him the father of modern science. He changed how we study nature. He showed that we must test and observe, not just believe what others say. In the years after his death, more scientists followed Galileo's path. One of them was Isaac Newton. Newton read Galileo's books. He used Galileo's work to help create the laws of motion and gravity. Newton said, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." Galileo was one of those giants. Galileo's books were copied and shared across Europe. His telescope had shown people a new universe. His ideas had opened a door to discovery. Before Galileo, many people thought the heavens were perfect and unchanging. After Galileo, people saw that the sky was full of movement and mystery. In time, the Catholic Church changed its view. At first, they had feared his ideas. They thought he was a danger to their power. But as the years passed, they saw he had been right. In 1992, more than 300 years after his death, the Church officially said that Galileo was correct. It was a long journey toward truth. Galileo's legacy is not only in science. He also stood for the freedom to think. He believed that people should look, question, and learn for themselves. He believed that nature speaks through evidence. His way of thinking helped shape modern life, from medicine to machines. Today, schools and universities all over the world teach his name. Space scientists use tools he helped inspire. Telescopes are now more powerful than ever. Some of them are even in space. But they all began with one simple tube, made by a man in Italy. Galileo also showed that courage is important in science. He faced strong enemies. He was forced to stay silent. But he did not stop asking questions. He paid a price, but he helped the world move forward. His courage helped others stand up for knowledge. There is a crater on the moon named after Galileo. There are spacecraft named in his honor. His finger is kept in a museum in Florence. People from around the world visit to see a small part of the man who reached for the stars. Galileo Galilei lived in a time of great fear and change, but he chose the path of discovery. His light still shines through history. His voice still echoes in the work of every scientist. His journey reminds us that truth, once seen, cannot be unseen. He is not just a name in a book. He is a guide to those who dare to look up and ask, why? Thank you for joining this English listening practice. We hope you enjoyed learning English through story, with the real story of Galileo Galilei's life journey. Warm wishes to you always.